you ready to get down to business? Join seasoned entrepreneur, community leader, and Army veteran Scott Shalom Klein, who will take you behind the scenes with those who work in America's small business scene and speak with leaders making an impact, creating jobs, and telling their story in entrepreneurship. So let's get down to business. On AM 560, The Answer, here's your host, Shalom Klein.
And indeed, we're all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. We talk all about small business here. You're listening to Get Down to Business. I'm your host, Shalom Klein. This week, we're going to kick off with a truly accomplished product and technology leader. That's Michael Cerdá. Michael has served as chief product officer and executive at some of the world's most influential companies, including as VP of product for Disney Streaming, where he helped launch Disney Plus to over 100 million subscribers. He's also held executive roles at Goldman Sachs, Marcus Division, Live Nation, Ticketmaster, and Facebook, and has founded multiple venture-backed startups. His new book, Build Something, Building Products, Business, and Culture, a journey of hard-won lessons and impactful outcomes, reveals the untold stories behind transformative technologies and the art of building. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. Michael, you've built businesses, products, and teams from the ground up. In your experience, what's the single most important thing that most leaders overlook when trying to build something great?
I would say it comes down to the culture that you must bring along and employ as part of doing these things. I think a lot of leaders tend to pick people that act, look, and think like them. And I think that's a recipe for a very short-term, way of going about it. I don't think you build great things that way. I think you need different perspectives. I think you need different people coming from different backgrounds, thinking of the world slightly differently, so that you get that diversified view. And it's not even like you have partial pieces that have to come to full agreement. You can make the call. You can make the hard call one way or another. But if you do it absent those inputs, you're going to have a pretty shallow outcome.
Amazing. And your book delves into the critical role of culture in a company's success, highlighting that a supportive culture of innovation and collaboration drives outcomes. Can you share a time when culture significantly impacted a product's success or failure, and what lesson should leaders take from that?
Yeah, and I've got a great example that actually wasn't in the book because I had an end cap on the story because the last, what would have been the last chapter was still playing out, right? I'll just give you one from that because I think it's right on point to your question. I was in a company that was merging with another company, and they were trying to combine their video asset catalogs to build a streaming service with all of their content, a new streaming service. So you could think Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu, right? But this one was in Spanish. And so you got a company in Mexico, a company in the United States, both Spanish language media companies coming together and trying to combine catalogs and launch a streaming service and build a business out of it. And this is a business building over the top of what is already a TV business that's probably dying slowly, right? Like all TV businesses are. So I had people from one part of the company, people from another part of the company, some contractors that had just shown up, some people that I brought in, another company that we had acquired. So we had 5 discrete groups of people in trying to pull off building a new streaming service in 9 months. So in this case, what I did was I basically took everybody together and said, look, the North Star here is launching this service that tells the stories in Spanish to the Spanish language population that they want to hear in high quality ways. Let's all forget about, what our current role was in our last version of our company. Let's just all come together. Let's just flatten the whole thing and let's pick up a shovel, each one of us, and figure out how we make it there, right? So I created this sort of North Star alignment, agnostic of where anybody came from, but honoring where they came from, right? And taking the lessons learned from each of their areas and ultimately brought this together as one team. And because they were on a mission and they were feeling like they were on a mission and they felt respected and empowered, we actually made it. We actually got this thing to launch. I think it was in record time. We got there, and before you knew it, we were streaming the World Cup to millions of concurrent viewers. And I couldn't have I have never heard of a streaming service launching that quickly to that level of scale and quality. And I think the secret ingredient behind it all was the culture, the team, and bringing everybody and making everybody a real part of it.
Amazing. And you've had a notable stint at Facebook, which I mentioned in the beginning, and which, as you described, taught you that culture fit matters more than capability. Can you elaborate a bit on that experience and what lessons you learned about integrating experienced hires into a strong existing culture?
This is an interesting one because it's a vulnerable one, actually, and I'll tell you, it might be a slightly different answer than you thought was coming, which is I don't know that I landed it well when I was there. I'm not sure I'm not sure I succeeded in convincing folks that culture was the way to do it. Now, what I did do within the teams that I managed and led, I was able to infuse that culture and that empowerment with the teams. So there were great success stories. One of them in particular, I'm sure you've seen yourself or your listeners have seen, we can all as consumers go live on Facebook right now, right? That's a feature. I launched that feature with a very small team of like 5 people. And I essentially empowered this team and said, hey, look, we're trying to drive more time spent by people in the Facebook newsfeed on media-specific content. I have a hunch that enabling celebrities, at least, to go live could help us drive that kind of content. Why don't you guys spend a little time there, right? And so this team went off and did research and did some digging in and ultimately prototyped something, and it looked and felt great. We showed it to some celebrities and said, hey, how would you, Mr. Celebrity, Mrs. Celebrity, like to go live on Facebook? How would you feel about that? Would you do it? And what would you do? And we started learning a little bit more about that. Before too long, we actually launched it with a few celebrities. We had The Rock, the actor, The Rock, live streaming his home workout from his home gym to an iPhone that all of his fans were able to watch on Facebook. Or Ricky Gervais was doing a comedy bit from his bathtub to an iPhone that all of his fans were actually able to watch as it was happening. Chris Martin from Coldplay was singing one of their hits, Fix You, in his living room to an iPhone. Was it the best fidelity in the world? No, but it didn't matter because it was happening right now and it was authentic and it wasn't available anywhere else. So we launched this thing. The fans of these celebrities loved it. It became such an engagement mechanism that Mark came back the following, whatever it was, January after the holidays. He always comes back with a new sort of vantage point of like where we should double down. And that next January, the double down was all about what he called the live lockdown. So if you weren't working on live yet, now you were, because it was becoming a thing that we were going to make available to everybody on Facebook, not just celebrities. That's a success story for building from a small team, bringing the right culture, the right empowerment to it, and letting them blossom. That's the success story there. Now, what I'll close with is my own personal story there. It was interesting because that way of managing and that way of leading, what just simply wasn't as valued. Just like a lot of companies, Facebook was no different. They model after their leader, right? And that's a very common thing. You look at how the boss does it, and that's how you kind of do it. And so you have a lot of these stoic, and I realized lately in the public lens, Mark's been a little bit more rambunctious than he used to be, but he was very stoic back then and very reserved, not much EQ, very calculated, very serious. And so everybody else around him was that way as well. So when I come along as an experienced hire, looking to jazz up a team and muck it up and get it going, it wasn't as welcome. It wasn't the framework that those folks were brought up understanding.
Absolutely. Well, Michael, I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I know you've got some great experience in major companies like Facebook, Disney, Goldman Sachs, but also founding startups, so that your book is truly a wealth of knowledge. The book is called Build Something, Building Products, Business, and Culture, a journey of hard-won lessons and impactful outcomes. Michael, where can we learn more about your work and find the book?
I would say www.build-something.com has it all, in addition to other pods and other articles and write-ups and of course, links to get the book. There's an audiobook that I also narrate. Had a great time doing that. That's available as well on Audible.
Fantastic. Michael, Cerdá, thank you so much for inspiring our listeners. And I can't wait to have you back on real soon because I know we've just scratched the surface of this important topic. Coming up, we got a lot more small business jobs and entrepreneurship. And later on in the program, I'm going to talk all about small business resilience, a really important topic, and you don't want to miss it. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.